Hi, I'm Jeffrey Rickman. I'm a Global Methodist pastor, and this is TJ right here.
Hi,
and TJ and I do this series every week where we're going through the Transitional book of Doctrines and Discipline. And we sat down last week, and we recorded a whole awesome hour. Really good, lots of good give and take. We were both in a good mood, excellent analysis, humorous bits, insightful bits, and then I sat down to edit it, and I had not turned on TJ's microphone at all. So it was a wasted hour and a half of our lives, and I was very upset, and TJ instantly forgave me because...
It's what Jesus would do. It happens.
Yeah, TJ and I, we've been doing this a while, and there are just a lot of things to make sure that we do right when we're doing it, and when you forget just one thing, it can have huge implications.
Well, and neither one of us are sitting at the command center watching this stuff. We're at the table now.
Yeah.
So
I was so delighted whenever you chose to join me at the table over here, but that came at a cost, didn't it? So,
yeah, it did. Yes. So it happens. We'll remember. We remembered it this time.
I can see the sound bars right now as you talk, so we are in good shape today. So
good.
Anything that we should update people on before we get into it today?
No, we're just going to get through with Section 8 today, like we did last week.
Exact same thing.
Probably a little bit faster since we've already been over it.
Yeah, we're not going to trip over certiorari like we did last time.
Yeah, you missed out on that. So, no mispronunciations. I don't know. It'll be all right.
Okay. All right.
Finally get done with this.
We're going to be able to cover the rest of section part 8 that we're in today. And then there's going to be just 5 pages left. And then after that, we're going to cover the judicial policy and procedure. That's going to be 2 weeks out. And then we're going to cover that new general conference document that came out. And then, I don't know if you saw this, they released the Constitution that they're going to approve at the next general conference. So we'll do that after that.
The Constitution. Mm-hmm. What? I don't know anything about that. Why is there a Constitution if we've got a book of discipline?
So the Constitution is the part of the book of discipline that is very hard to change. And so it requires a higher threshold of, it's like 4/5. We'll decide that as a group. So there are other things in the book of Doctrines and Discipline that will just require a majority vote. But the Constitution is, here's who we're going to be the whole time we're together, no matter what.
Okay. I have to look over that because it's news to me.
They sent it out yesterday as of recording. Does
the United Methodist Church have a Constitution?
Yes, and it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's part of the Book of Discipline, but different?
Yes. Well, so, you know how each of these sections that we've covered is a different section, so the Constitution will be right up front, and this is the non-negotiable things about how we are tied together.
All right.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that one. That hopefully will be a little bit more interesting than this, but
I don't think it will be. No, I don't think it will be. So, but it'll just have huge implications for how it is the whole concept here, folks, has been, it's not particularly like engaging, but it has everything to do with how well things go from here on out. So that's why it's worth understanding. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and turn to today's section. We're picking up in section 5 of part 8. This is paragraph 819, miscellaneous provisions. So I'll read a paragraph and then we'll just go back and forth. So if you don't have a copy of this, you can go to globalmethodist.org. That's the GMC website, and you can download an updated copy. Make sure that the copy you have is from February of 2024 because there have been many revisions along the way. All right. Paragraph 819, miscellaneous provisions. Point 1. Any clergy members residing beyond the bounds of the conference in which membership is held shall be subject to the procedures of paragraphs 801 through 819 and the judicial policy and procedure exercised by the appropriate officers of the conference in which the alleged violation took place, unless the presiding bishops of the 2 annual conferences and the clergy members subject to the procedures agree that fairness will be better served by having the procedures carried out by the appropriate officers of the annual conference in which he or she is a member, or if the clergy person has elected senior status where they are currently residing. So as I recall Man, this is already, I almost forgot all this stuff anyway, but it's about where the trial takes place.
Yeah, I automatically just zoned out. So we're starting off good. So yeah, so if somebody is a clergy member who is under, I guess, investigation, is in a different area than where their membership is, that means they've got to have the trial in the area that they're a member of. Is that right? Oh, no, where the violation took place.
Where the violation took place,
so you're in some other conference for whatever reason. If you do something that requires them to bring up charges, those charges are against you in the place that you actually broke them.
Unless all these other provisions stipulate they all agree that it would be better served by having the procedures carried out by the appropriate officers in another annual conference.
Okay, makes sense. You break a law in another state.
There you go.
You're charged by that state.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Point 2. When a bishop or clergy member is the respondent to a complaint under paragraphs 806 and 807 and desires to withdraw from the Global Methodist Church at any point in the process, the bishop or clergy member shall surrender his or her credentials, and his or her name shall be removed from the conference membership, in which case the record shall be withdrawn under complaint or withdrawn under charges, whichever is appropriate. If the person desires the credentials to be restored, they would first have to resolve the complaint, with the complaint process picking up at the point at which it ended when they withdrew. Time spent as, quote, withdrawn under complaint or charges, end quote, does not count toward the statute of limitations. So there is a statute of limitations whenever an offense has taken place. However, if you can't duck charges by simply cashing out for a bit and then coming back in.
Right.
So if you try to come back in, you're going to have to answer those charges that were filed against you.
Yeah, you got a complaint against you, you got charges against you. If you withdraw, they don't go away.
Nope.
If you want to come back in, they're still there.
And with clergy, that's a reasonable thing. There's going to be a paper trail with any clergy.
Or bishop, yeah, that's what this one's for.
Well, it's for bishop.
Yeah, bishop or clergy.
Okay. So definitely with the bishop, there will be a paper trail, but with clergy as well. Although hypothetically, I could have complaints against me right now and then move to there's not a GMC in California really, but like Vermont or something, and then just go through the whole process as like a newbie, and they wouldn't know me from Adam, really, I don't think.
You really think so? I think they would. Surely they would do some kind of investigation that was more than surface deep.
Yeah, they would have to do a background check on me, and unless I somehow got a new social security number or something, they would figure out that I was clergy. Okay. You're right. Okay. Point 3. When a professing member of the GMC is charged with an offense so it's a professing member now, and desires to withdraw from the GMC at any point in the process, the charge conference may permit such member to withdraw his or her name from the roll of professing members, in which case the record shall be withdrawn under complaint. If formal charges have been referred by a committee on investigation, such member may be permitted to withdraw, in which case the record shall be, quote, withdrawn under charges, end quote. If the person desires to be restored as a professing member, or become a professing member in another local congregation of the GMC, they would first have to resolve the complaint, with the complaint process picking up at the point at which it ended when they withdrew. So this is the one that would be dependent upon the honor system, because we don't have any way of tracking just lay members from conference to conference or church to church.
Right. Well, that's basically the same as the bishop and clergy, right? Only I did notice this time there is no mention of statute of limitations.
Yeah, Yeah, you're right. That is an interesting absence, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know why maybe that's just maybe they missed that or what. So theoretically you could withdraw, run out the statute of limitations, and then come back. So
maybe
GMC fixed that.
I don't even remember where the statute of limitations was lined out. It would have been in this section, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't there. I remember it. I don't remember what it was.
Okay. I'm going to be, the intention after we get done going through the Transitional Book of Doctrines and Discipline, I need to read the whole thing over again, just privately. So there's a lot that's changed, and it's easy to forget all this stuff because it doesn't, naturally, it's not easy to set these words to tune or anything, So, point 4, for procedural purposes, the judicial process shall be governed by the Transitional Book of Doctrines and Discipline and the JPP in effect on the day of a complaint is forwarded to the council for the church. So if they update these documents, you're not going off the updated version, you're going the one that was in effect when the complaints were filed, charges were filed.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
I don't think so. I think that one's pretty straightforward.
Okay. Let's go to the
Section
next
6, Connectional Council on Appeals. It's a whole nother body, appeals body. So paragraph 820 is membership. Number 1, the Connectional Council on Appeals is the highest judicial body in the Global Methodist Church. So this is basically, we went over this as like the Supreme Court, essentially.
Yeah.
So the council shall be composed of 7 members. When the initial council is elected by the convening general conference, 4 members shall be clergy and 3 members shall be laity. A member's term of office shall be 6 years. A member may serve a maximum of 2 consecutive 6-year terms. I'm just realizing that's consecutive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So maybe they can sit out for another 6 years and then come back in?
Yeah, and I didn't catch that the first time.
Yeah.
That's okay. Anyways. The number of clergy and laity shall alternate every 6 years, so that the clergy have the 4 members during one 6-year term, and the laity have the 4 members during the next 6-year term. Members shall either be elders or laity who are professing members of the Global Methodist Church. Bishops shall be ineligible for election to the council. Okay, so the appeals, Connectional Council on Appeals you can't put bishops in there, which I guess there's a similar body in the UMC. Does it allow bishops?
No, I don't think it does.
Okay.
If they've ever, I don't think they've ever had a bishop on there. I don't know if it's explicitly precluded by the Book of Discipline or not.
Okay. So there's 7 people on this council.
4 clergy, 3 laity.
Yeah, but that switches every 6 years.
Okay.
So, yeah. Point number 2, interim council appointment. The Transitional Leadership Council shall appoint by majority vote the persons to serve on an interim Connectional Council on Appeals. Did you say this has been set up or has not been set up yet?
Yeah, I contacted Karen Nicholas after we recorded this last week, and she said it has not been set up.
Has not been set up, which I guess makes sense. You wouldn't really need it unless somebody's under charges already.
Right, yeah.
Which, if they're under charges already, that's red flag, kick them out.
Or I don't know. Do we really imagine that all the Global Methodist clergy are all behaving well?
Maybe, I don't know.
Well, even if they aren't, this is the final straw. Right. So they would have had to gone through a trial and it go a different direction anyway.
Right, yeah, and okay. Clergy and laity shall be appointed to serve as alternates in a number equal to the number to serve on the interim Connectional Council on Appeals. So there's 7 alternates. Alternates shall serve in their category at any session of the council in the absence of a member of the council in order of their election.
In the order of their election.
Members of the interim council may be nominated to be elected by the convening general conference. Any time served on the interim Connectional Council shall not count against term limits set by the convening general conference. So the the TLC Transitional Leadership Council gets to pick the first round of these people, hypothetically before general conference. They haven't done that yet, but they have the option to do that. And then the convening general conference elects the set in stone first one. And if you're on that council, it doesn't count against your 6-year terms.
Right.
So, which I guess makes sense.
Yes.
All right. 3 alternates. Clergy and laity shall be elected to serve as alternates in a number equal to the number to serve on the Connectional Council on Appeals during the ensuing 6-year term. Alternates shall serve in their category at any session of the council in the absence of a member of the council in the order of their election. In the event a member of the council cannot serve the balance of a term, the next elected alternate in the category impacted shall serve the balance of the term, and such service shall not count against the maximum term of serving.
Time of serving.
Term. Whatever.
Okay.
Same thing. It's not what, yeah. Anyways, you look like you had something to say on that one.
No, not really.
Just correct me.
No, yeah, that was all I had. It's so hard for me to pay attention on this, to be honest with you.
Because we already went over it once, or it's just one of those mornings?
That and the topic itself is just so boring to me. Yeah. I have a hard time with alternates. I couldn't care less until it matters, and then I care a lot, which is why we're going over this. Right. So it's very important.
All right, number 4, expiration of term. The term of office of the members of the council, Connectional Council on Appeals, and of the alternates shall expire upon the adjournment of the General Conference at which their successors are elected. I think I missed that one last time.
Yeah, but the reason why this matters so much is what I was hoping, what I said last time that nobody knows, is at General Conference there are often votes made and decisions made by those presiding that need to be reviewed by these guys.
Right.
At General Conference of the United Methodist Church, I have some memories of the Judicial Council operating a little bit, but you really need these guys to be active right after plenary session to say what they did was good or bad. Or so rather than electing new guys right at day one of General Conference and then having them try and rule on stuff at General Conference, you have that same crew that has been serving this whole time. Right. And then at the conclusion of General Conference, you have the new guys step in.
Yeah.
Or girls, of course.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. All right. 5, ineligibility. Members of the Connectional Council on Appeals shall be ineligible to serve as delegates to the general or any regional conferences, or to serve on any general, regional, or annual conference board or commissions. So
separation of powers, sort of, but you just make it so that their loyalty is to the court, not to the legislative body.
You don't get to be on both of them.
Yeah.
At the same time. So it doesn't say if it's afterwards. Surely afterwards you can, or before you can serve on those.
Yeah.
All right. 6, nominations. In advance of the convening General Conference, the Transitional Leadership Council shall nominate by majority vote a total of 21 persons representing the church's geographic, ethnic, and gender diversity in the appropriate lay and clergy categories. On the first day of the General Conference, nominations of clergy or laity may be made from the floor. Name, annual conference membership, and biographical information not to exceed 100 words shall be published for review by delegates to the General Conference at least 48 hours prior to the time of election. Election shall occur without discussion or debate by ballot and majority vote. So, this is in advance of the General Conference. So this is before it. So this is before the first convening General Conference. The Transitional Leadership Council actually nominates. They nominate 21 people.
Yeah.
On the first day of the General Conference.
So then they have their list of
they've got their.
I don't read this to say these are the only ones that can be entertained. It's just these are going to be the favored ones, because the TLC has submitted them ahead of time,
right?
And there's proper documentation. But I think I'm recalling last week that somebody else can be nominated, but their information has to be circulated ahead of time so that you're not.
Well, this is that section that I think you're thinking of, and that's what I was looking for. Is trying to figure out if are those the only people that are nominated? But it kind of makes room that you can nominate people as long as you get their information 48 hours beforehand. And put that up, and then you've got to be on the floor, and then you can make a nomination. But you can only make it from the floor, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, the only ones that don't have to make it from the floor would be the TLC who nominate them ahead of time.
Right, and I wonder after the first General Conference if the TLC is still electing those or it's going to change.
So what everybody is saying right now is the TLC is not going to exist after the first general conference, that either some other governing body is going to do what they're doing, or there is going to be no other governing body doing what they're doing, and there's just other structures that we build.
That's not clear. I feel like we've come back to that. Like, we don't know if it's going to be there or if it's not. So
same thing with Keith Boyette's position.
He's what president right now, or what is his position?
The Grand Leader, right? No, I really don't remember. No, I don't remember his actual title, but yeah, he's the main shot caller for the whole denomination. Right. And so it's not at all clear, and I don't know if we're going to be deciding it. So they're not letting us vote on just everything at this convening conference. There's too much work needs to get done, so they're going to only allow us to vote on some stuff, the Constitution being one of them. And so...
Then surely not wait 6 years for another one. That doesn't make any sense.
No, I don't think they will. I think they'll schedule something a year or two down the line after that to hammer out a lot of this other stuff.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. So in the meantime, there's just a lot pertaining to this that is still up in the air. The TLC, as it has been known, is ending. Is there going to be any kind of centralized governing body that calls shots day to day, week to week? I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see.
Right. Was that the end of your section?
That was the end of my section, 821.
So now we're on paragraph 821, organization and procedure. We're on point 1. Connectional Council on Appeals, rules of practice and procedure and officers. The Connectional Council on Appeals, remember this is the highest court of the GMC, shall provide its own rules of practice and procedure not in conflict with the provisions of the Transitional Book of Doctrines and Discipline, including the election of a president, vice president, and secretary of the council who shall be elected by the members of the council. I think this is essentially saying they get to make up their own rules.
We've elected you, between you guys, or girls, figure out who's president, vice president.
Right on.
All that stuff.
Point 2, time and place of meeting. The Connectional Council on Appeals shall meet at the time and place of the meeting of the General Conference and shall continue until the adjournment of that body, at least one other time in each calendar year, and at other times as the Council may deem appropriate, and at such places as it deems appropriate from time to time, where necessary due to internal or local conditions that...
International.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, you got me. International or local conditions that prevent the physical assembling of the council, it may, by a 2/3 vote, decide to meet via electronic or other digital means. So it could be that there's a ton for this group to do, and they are going to need to meet somewhat frequently. It could also be that hardly anything comes before them, and they just have salutary annual meetings. They can meet in person. They can meet digitally. The only time they have to meet is during the session of General Conference.
And at least one other time.
Right, but that time is something they can schedule.
Each year.
Yes.
So
annually, they have to meet sometime each year. But the one time that's set in stone on the calendar, whatever time General Conference is slated, they have to meet that time.
Well, that one other time is also set in stone. It doesn't matter, like, set in stone as in location set in stone?
Times. Like date.
I guess, yeah. They just have to do it at least one other time.
Yeah.
But okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So it basically says you've got these 2 times you definitely have to meet, and then you get to pick.
Right.
Because these aren't full-time, like this is not their full-time job.
I don't think it's a paid position.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any allusion to that. So yeah, this is all going to be volunteer. They're going to be coordinating with one another on their own schedules, which is why I think it's great that they can meet online so that if they're in different parts of the world, they can still collaborate together.
Yeah, if we're including, what did it say? 21 persons representing the church's geographic, ethnic, and gender diversity. Then out of necessity, that's probably going to be international people. Yeah. It wouldn't just be U.S., which would be weird if it was U.S. So I said that mockingly, but because in the sense that you're paying that close attention to it is irritating to me. But yeah, I guess it would be weird if it were a bunch of dudes in Florida or something. I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah.
It'd be odd.
Yeah, this is where the integrity of the GMC is on the line. We've put global in our title. Mm-hmm. We've taken offense at the way that the UMC made non-American second-class citizens.
Right.
So it's incumbent upon us to make sure that non-Americans are in positions of influence right from the get-go.
Yeah. Hopefully, it's not just that they're taking into consideration, it's merit as well.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Point 3, quorum. 7 members or alternates duly seated shall constitute a quorum. 1 lay and 1 clergy alternate shall attend the meeting to be available in case of illness or recusal. An affirmative vote of at least 5 members or duly seated alternates shall be necessary to declare any act of the General Conference unconstitutional. On all other matters, a majority vote of the entire Connectional Council on Appeals shall be sufficient to arrive at a decision. So the actual voting body is 7.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's 4 clergy, 3 lay. Sometimes in the next section it's 4 lay, 3 clergy.
Yeah.
Only 1 alternate has to be present at these.
It doesn't even say that. It says you have to have all 7 members. They can be alternates if alternates are deemed to be duly appointed.
Oh, it says 1 lay and 1 clergy alternate shall attend the meeting to be available. So that says to me 2 alternates have to be there on top of the 7 that are already established from the get-go.
Yeah, so I guess 9. So 9 people would have to be there.
I think so.
You have to have 1 alternate, whether they're being used or not.
Yeah, I think
Interesting.
So. Yeah.
Okay.
And then if they're going to overturn an act of the General Conference, which of course is the only governing body of the whole denomination, if they make a decision and it's actually unconstitutional, then they have to have a supermajority of 5 vote that way. On all other decisions, a vote of 4 is sufficient. It just has to be a simple majority.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Point 4, docket. The Secretary of the Connectional Council on Appeals shall publish a list of the matters which will be decided at any session at least 30 days prior to the deadline for submission of briefs. The description of each matter pending shall be sufficient to enable persons who might file briefs to know the subject of the pending matter. So for some reason I was thinking of General Conference. We're not dealing with General Conference. We're dealing with the Connectional Council on Appeals.
Yeah, so if they're getting together, they've decided they're going to get together. 30 days before they get together, they've got to say, okay, here's all the things we're going to go over and have it, I assume, in writing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and publish that.
Yeah.
So they can't just have some random, we're 5 days beforehand, we're also going to take this on. No, it's got to be 30 days prior.
Yeah, so, which makes sense. That's how you do good business.
Yeah, it gets weird if you're just throwing stuff in at the last second.
Yeah.
It's just a little suspicious.
Yeah. Point 5, public access. Unless the Connectional Council on Appeals decides otherwise on a case-by-case basis, all materials filed with the Connectional Council on Appeals are matters of public record and are to be made available to clergy or members of the GMC. The deliberations of the council are private. The council may schedule a hearing open to the public for the presentation of oral argument in any matter. As I said last week, I'm a big fan of this. I like transparency and openness. I'm personally of the mind it should even go further than this. They should just have all proceedings open unless there's a very extreme thing where it needs to be closed. But I just think everything should be done out in the open.
Open to whoever wants to come in and present an oral argument. Because that could be
anytime it's in session, I say they just live stream it all.
I'm for live streaming. It's just open the open to the public for presentation of an oral argument seems like it could get bogged down really quick.
No, I think not anyone should be able to just participate.
Okay.
They should only bring in the relevant parties to participate. I'm just talking about who can watch, who can have access to what's going on. So I love that all the written stuff is public. It sounds like it's upon request. It doesn't seem to me that they're just going to be posting it on a website, which I would prefer.
Yeah.
But I think you have to probably solicit it, but then you can report on it. You can tell other people. But then I'm just of the mind that I mean, it's so easy to live stream things nowadays. Everything there should just be a visible record, and that the only stuff done behind closed doors should be the most sensitive. I can't imagine a scenario where I think something should be done behind closed doors.
So the deliberations, once they've heard the argument and they're deciding what they're going to rule, that's private.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that?
No, I don't really like that, because I think it's important for people to see when someone's really stupid or incapable. And you don't get to see that if they do that stuff behind closed doors and they come out with the verdict, and then you have the majority opinion, minority opinion. I mean, it's really hard to see who's really doing a good job and who's doing a bad job.
Yeah. So last week I was okay. At first that kind of struck me as weird that they would make that private, but then I thought about it for a second and I was like, okay, that makes sense, because if the deliberations, if the 7 of them are in the back deciding, okay, we've heard all of this, here's what we're gonna decide. If that's public, I feel like there's an unnecessary pressure to come to a certain conclusion if it's a high profile case or something, and I don't like that.
Did you know in the United States of America, once upon a time, voting was, you could figure out what everybody voted on any particular measure.
Oh, I think it still should be like that.
So, same exact thing. The reason they ended that was because employers would fire their employees if they didn't vote the right way.
Oh, I'm sure they would still do it today if that were the case.
Right, yeah. But I just think it's a matter of personal integrity, and I think once you allow for that sort of mask of ignorance.
Well, so once they've come to a decision, I would expect, like the Supreme Court, okay, these are the people that voted for and these are the people that voted against. Here's the dissenting opinion, the other one that
prevailing.
Yeah, whatever. That makes sense to me. The you guys getting together and hashing it out behind closed door, that doesn't bother me as much. I want to know what your decision is. I want to know how you came to that decision in writing. But watching the process of it, that just seems tedious and unnecessary.
I mean, I'm probably not going to watch, but I just want it to be available for those who are tedious. I mean, this is the cool thing about the era we're living in, is we do have a lot of very tedious people that are willing to comb through stuff, and they find stuff.
Well, so I'm okay with the actual court proceeding being public and live streamed. That's fine. I have
but
no
not
issue
the
with
deliberations.
That. Not the deliberations. I don't care. As long as I know who voted which way and how they came to that conclusion, then I'm okay with it.
I hear you. Okay. Well, you get to read now. Paragraph 822. There you go.
Jurisdiction. The Connectional Council on Appeals shall determine whether any act of the General Conference is in compliance with this transitional book of Doctrines and Discipline upon an appeal of 1/5 of the members of the General Conference present and voting, or by a majority of the Council of Bishops. So,
they're not going to automatically review every single decision the General Council makes. Rather, it's either a majority of the bishops or 1/5 of the assembled body that can then recommend something to them for review.
That makes sense. They say, okay, you just made that decision. I need 1/5 of the members at the General Conference to say, this is weird. We need the Connectional Council on Appeals to look at this, or a majority of the Council of Bishops. Do we even have a Council of Bishops right now?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah. And I don't know how many are on that. Well, I guess we're going to determine that at some point.
It's just going to be the number of bishops that we have right now. It's 2 active full-time bishops.
So the whole, all the bishops would be the the Council of Bishops. Is that how it is in the UMC?
Mm-hmm. That's why I'm assuming that's how they're doing it. That's how it is in the United Methodist Church. So I'm assuming that the GMC would take the same system.
Okay. I guess for some reason, in my head, I was thinking the Council of Bishops in the UMC was a smaller group of all the bishops that they've elected for some reason. I don't know why I was thinking that. Yeah. Anyways, okay. Number 2, the Connectional Council on Appeals shall determine whether any proposed legislation is in conflict with this transitional book of Doctrine and Discipline when such a declaratory decision is requested by 1/5 of the members of the General Conference present and voting, or by a majority of the Council of Bishops.
What's the difference between those two?
That's what I was trying to figure out.
Mm-hmm. Proposed legislation versus act of the General Conference. Okay. I think that's the only difference. So there's already made an action made. We need to review it, or before we even review it, there's a proposal being submitted. Can we even seriously consider it?
Gotcha. Okay. That seems like they could condense a lot of these. And there's a lot of them. So, number 3, the Connectional Council on Appeals shall determine whether any act of a regional or annual conference is in compliance with this transitional book of doctrines and disciplines upon an appeal by a majority of the bishops of that regional conference, or upon appeal by 1/5 of the delegates present and voting to that regional or annual conference. Okay, so this is any act by a regional or annual conference.
Mm-hmm. So it's not the general conference anymore. It's now a regional or annual conference.
Right, and then that requires a majority of the bishops of that region, of that regional conference. It doesn't say. Assuming that we've got one bishop, bishop for each annual conference. They can't just say, "Hey, I need you to look at this." Then we're getting into the regional conferences that I don't like.
Yeah, right now the United Methodists are seeing that we have regional conferences, and they're doing the same thing as us. They're trying to regionalize, but it's just
you can't call that racist if you're going to do the same thing.
Well, but it's the same name, but it doesn't do the same thing. So what it's going to do in the United Methodist Church, these regional conferences, is isolate them from one another so they can't correct each other. That's not what this is designed to do in the GMC.
What is this designed to do?
This is designed just to let them make decisions that only pertain to that region. So, I mean, I guess, well, heck, I lack the vocabulary here, but so I guess what they're going to try and do in the United Methodist Church is say, well, here we just have different sexual norms that we need to accommodate. And so in the GMC, that's just not going to fly. Like, it's not going to have anything to do with sexuality.
Well, what's to stop that? Because it doesn't say that if this annual conference makes a decision, another annual conference or regional conference can then say, hey, Connectional Council on Appeals, you need to look this up. This says it can only be done by the people in that regional annual conference.
Yeah, so we need to go back to this section that limits the powers of annual conferences and regional conferences, because the same applies to both. What's to keep an annual conference from making this norm? How are they corrected? It's the same thing with the regional conference. So hypothetically, in the United Methodist Church, they already have annual conferences that can make their own decisions and rules. How are they corrected? That's the main question of how are they corrected. So apparently in the Christmas Covenant proposal of the United Methodist Church, which they're going to entertain next month, if the conference is not declared illegitimate, 2/3 of other regional conferences have to vote no on any change that they decide to make, and that can undo it. I don't know. I think actually what's going to happen here is the Connectional Council on Appeals is going to rule immediately. Well, it still has to be submitted to them, though, and that's the section that we're dealing with right now, is how is it submitted to them. But they'll be able to rule immediately if something's out of line, whereas I don't think that's going to be the case in the United Methodist Church, although it should be. Maybe it could be. I don't know. But I think that's a worthy line of questioning. This, as we create this new structure, there does definitely need to be stuff in place where it's just they're clearly defined rules, boundaries, and limitations.
Yeah. Okay, number 5. Four. Skip one. 4. The Connectional Council on Appeals shall determine the legality of any action taken by any body created or authorized by the General Conference, or by any body created or authorized by a regional or annual conference upon an appeal by 1/5 of the delegates presenting. Yeah, okay. Presenting and voting of such general, regional, or annual conferences, or 1/3 of the governing members of the created or authorized body present and voting, or a majority of the Council of Bishops, or the bishops of the regional conference wherein the action was taken.
So it's just figuring out how can these cases be submitted to the Connectional Council on Appeals.
Right.
Depends on the nature of the body, but...
Yeah, who's making the decision? here's how you get to the appeal. And this one's random, I guess not random, like councils or
all
groups.
kinds of other bodies.
Yeah.
This is just kind of a catch-all.
Yeah. Okay. Number 5. The Connectional Council on Appeals may grant certiorari to determine the legality of any action taken by a body or agency created or authorized by the general, regional, or annual conference upon petition for certiorari by 1/5 of the delegates present and voting of any regional or annual conference.
All right, so tell us what certiorari means.
Certiorari is basically you just, the lower court has made a decision. You can then bump that up to the next highest court, and they can review it and appeal it. So it's just appealed by a higher court.
So a precedent has been set, and then certiorari is potentially overturning precedent?
Well, it could be precedent, but it could be just something that's
ruling.
not. Yeah, just a lower ruling.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just basically you can appeal to a higher court, and the highest court is the Connectional Council on Appeals.
Right.
So that's the end of the line.
Okay.
6. The Connectional Council on Appeals may grant certiorari to render a declaratory decision as to the meaning, application, or effect of the Transitional Book of Doctrine and Discipline, or any portion thereof, or the legality, meaning, application, or effect of any act or legislation of a regional or annual conference. Petitions for certiorari may be filed by the General Conference upon the vote of 1/5 of the delegates present and voting. B, the Council of Bishops upon the vote of a majority of the bishops present and voting. C, any body created or authorized by the General Conference or a regional or annual conference on matters relating to or affecting the work of such body upon the vote of a majority of the body's governing entity present and voting. And D, a regional or annual conference upon the vote of 1/5 of its delegates present and voting. Or E, the regional college of bishops upon the majority vote of the bishops present and voting.
So this at heart is when certiorari can be done, right?
Yeah. So this is
and certiorari is just a writ or order by which a higher court reviews a decision of a lower court. That's
right.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have all these different scenarios where that can be done. Had 5 of them. If you want to know more, read that section again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is that was rough.
Go ahead.
7. The Connectional Council on Appeals shall affirm, modify, or reverse the decisions of law made by bishops in annual, regional, or general conference. No such episcopal decision of law shall be authoritative except in the conference where it is made, until review by the council has been completed.
So if a bishop makes like an executive decision, an executive order, it is not law of the land. It is temporarily law of wherever they hold jurisdiction, but it immediately goes to Connectional Council on Appeals, and they can cancel it out. There is no kind of edict that cannot be canceled out by this court.
Yeah, so hypothetically, a bishop can make a decision that's like way out there, and unfortunately, it's still law until the Connectional Council of Appeals can strike it down. So,
yeah,
however long that is. Which, I mean, I'm sure if it's a like crazy way out there thing, it'd be done pretty quick.
Yeah.
But still, it would be 30 days from that decision.
Yeah, and if it's the United Methodist Church would review these decisions made by bishops during annual conference session, 6 months, a year later, and it's so much water has already gone under the bridge. I hope they're able to meet quickly and move quickly.
Yeah. Hopefully. So 8. The Connectional Council on Appeals may grant certiorari to review a decision of a committee of appeals of any regional or annual conference if it should appear that such a decision may be at variance with the Transitional Book of Doctrines and Discipline, a prior decision of the Connectional Council on Appeals, or a decision of a committee on appeals of another regional or annual conference on a question of church law.
Okay, so that just deals with precedent and certiorari again.
Yeah. So there's other lower courts that can overturn stuff. And then the Connectional Council on Appeals can overturn their decision because they're higher.
Aren't you just so excited to have so many court cases in the GMC?
Yeah, as long as they don't take forever and cost a ton of money.
Yeah, that's been my concern all along is I don't like drawing things out. I don't like spending money. I don't like a litigious atmosphere. So I think all the time nowadays about the interrogator, inquisitor position that I want. I think that'll be a superior system to this. We'll see, but I notice things getting bogged down, and people in power always use the structures in place to get what they want. So we'll see what happens, but it's a beautiful system they've designed. I hope it works the way they intend.
Hopefully. Number 9. The Connectional Council on Appeals shall have jurisdiction to hear and determine all appeals from a regional appeals committee on a judicial matter, which is JPP 14.1 and 15.5. So that just sounds like, they can.
We can do what we want.
Yeah. Another court made a decision. We can appeal it if we want to, if it's brought before us. Fine. 10. During the period after the legal formation of the Global Methodist Church until the convening General Conference, an interim Connectional Council on Appeals may grant certiorari to render a declaratory decision as to the meaning, application, or effect of the Transitional Book of Doctrines and Discipline, or any portion thereof, or the legality, meaning, application, or effect of any act of the Transitional Leadership Council, or of proposed legislation upon request by a majority vote of the Transitional Leadership Council. All right. So that's just saying until the convening General Conference, that's the Connectional Council on Appeals that's not been set up yet, but that could be set up, they can grant certiorari. Fine. Makes sense. Number 11. During the period after the legal formation of the Global Methodist Church until the convening General Conference, the interim Connectional Council on Appeals shall have jurisdiction upon any of the items 1 through 9 above as requested by the appropriate body in each item, except that the majority vote of the Transitional Leadership Council shall substitute for the request of the General Conference in each relevant item. Okay, so that's just saying until you get the General Conference together and that's been completed, the TLC gets to be in place for the
General Conference.
Yeah. Which would make sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Good job. That was paragraph 822. Now we're going to go to paragraph 823, and I'll read the last 3 paragraphs. They're very short. All right. Paragraph 823 is on certiorari. Certiorari is discretionary and is granted upon the affirmative vote of 3 members of the Connectional Council on Appeals. I'm not sure I understand that. Discretionary means they can do what they want, and it's granted. Oh, okay, so it doesn't even have to be a majority of the court that entertains.
Yeah, they can determine if they want to actually take up the case or not. They don't automatically get the case.
Yeah.
3 of them have to say, okay, we're going to take this case. 3 of the 7.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like the Supreme Court, I guess 4 of them need to determine if they want to take up a decision or not.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Paragraph 824 on decisions. All decisions of the Connectional Council on Appeals are final. Decisions shall immediately be delivered to the parties of interest in each matter and be published electronically for public review.
Okay, so that comes back to the thing we were talking about earlier. All of their decisions are public, and you get to...
And final. I mean, this is... it's not called the Judicial Council, which is very clear naming, which the United Methodist Church has. This is kind of... Connectional Council on Appeals doesn't necessarily convey a lot of gravitas, but it's actually the highest court in the land. That's.
Yeah, I feel like my brain was somewhere else. It was because I feel like we went over this last week. My concern was, okay, they made a decision. Was the decision actually good or not? Can that be then overturned at some point in the future?
Oh yeah, I remember you did ask that question, and we came to the conclusion that there's no reason why they couldn't revisit a decision they made if another later case gives them opportunity to revisit.
Yeah, is that what the conclusion we came to? Okay, yeah. Hopefully, if this council makes a dumb decision, which is bound to happen. I mean, the Supreme Court makes dumb decisions all the time. Can that be overturned by a future ruling? And hopefully, that's the case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable to expect that that's allowed.
Yeah.
Okay. Final paragraph for today, 825. Precedential value. Not presidential, precedential, like there's precedent. The decisions of predecessor Methodist bodies, such as the Judicial Councils of the Methodist Church and the United Methodist Church, may be cited in arguments before the Connectional Council on Appeals, but shall only have precedential value to the extent determined by the Connectional Council on Appeals. So whatever these preceding bodies have done, it's not irrelevant. It is relevant. You can talk about it, but it's also not the end-all, be-all. Yeah. And this is not an extension of them. This is just, they argued this. It's relevant here. Let's bring it up, but we don't have to give it too much weight.
Right. Yeah, which I'm fine with.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's today's segment, y'all. And so next week we begin with Part 9, Property. We're on page now 100 of a 105-page document. So we'll see if we can't go through all 5 pages next week and then go in the direction that I said.
That's 13 paragraphs.
Okay.
So maybe at most it'll probably be 2 episodes.
Yeah.
But that's the last part?
Yeah, of the whole Transitional Book of Doctrines and Discipline.
Yeah.
And then we need to review the JPP. We need to review some other documents. Then we'll circle back around because, I mean, what's going to happen? We might wait till after the United Methodist Church's General Conference. That would help me.
When is their General Conference?
It's the end of next month.
Okay. Then we're taping this March 15th of 2024.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we might take a couple weeks break and work on other stuff, but then, well, no, the JPP will probably take us that long, so we might not get a break, actually.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll take a break anyway. But the main thing is we need to have a time of intentionally combing through the Transitional Book of Doctrines and Discipline again so that those who want to submit petitions are doing so thoughtfully, including us. We had some ideas of things that we want to do. On my live stream this last Friday, went through, and it was like 7 things that came off the top of my head that I want to do. So giving plenty of time and attention to that will be key. So okay. Anything else to...
Not a thing.
Okay. Well, we sure enjoy having an audience for this. It's good for us to come our way through. We hope it's good for you too. If you know of anybody else who would benefit from this, make sure to share it. And then if you want to start supporting the work that we're doing, you're always invited to go over to PlainSpoken.locals.com where you can support this work that we're doing, and hopefully we're going to be able to build out more musculature over time to help the GMC make excellent, conscientious, faithful decisions. So thanks for being a part of that. We'll see you next week.